What's up, guys? Kyle Marlette here with Vanishing Magic. I'm here with my buddy Steven Brundage, who creator of Cube3, this incredible Rubik's Cube routine, act. It's not even a routine; it's an act, all in one little box with one object, which is pretty incredible. You might have recognized Steven from multiple appearances on TV, including the Steve Harvey Show, Penn and Teller Fool Us, where he fooled them so hardcore, and also how many millions of views did your video get? Like, ridiculous.
The Fools or the other one?
The cop video.
That's like 2.4, and then Fools is 2 million as well.
Or probably more, of him getting out of a speeding ticket. And you've done that twice now. You did it again just recently.
The second time wasn't a speeding ticket. It was just for a license plate light ticket.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Regardless, it's working. So, Steven, thank you so much for hanging out with me, man.
Great. I'm excited to be here.
So it's gonna. I want to talk about Cube3. So this is Cube3. I got my hands on an early copy of it. Pre-sales happen Monday, the 24th, which is tomorrow. We're having this conversation on Sunday. And tell people just a brief summary about Cube3, because I know personally that I've wanted to learn how to do Rubik's Cube solving and a Rubik's Cube routine in my show for years. And my hardest thing for me was I would learn from these resources. And I think you and I have talked about this before, but it was just so boring and so they repeated. It was really difficult to learn. They didn't. I mean, I know that kind of sounds silly, but it was just kind of hard to learn just because they weren't teaching it in a great way. Now I've seen Cube3 and the footage, and I learned it in 15 minutes. I think I was down. So tell us about Cube3.
Yeah, so it's all just stuff with the Rubik's Cube, ungimmicked Rubik's Cubes, and there's no, my biggest issue is when you have a cube and you hand it out and they can't look at it, they can't mix it up, because that's what Rubik's Cubes are for. People mix them up and then you solve them. So just do it over again. You hand it at the beginning, they mix it up, you solve it normally, and then there's all these magical phases where you mix it up and you toss it in the air, and then you catch it solved. So
now I think the biggest question that people are going to have with Cube3 is the level of difficulty of Cube3. And when I say Cube3, I mean Cube3 is for me the project, the whole shebang. But how hard is it going to be for a normal layperson who's never learned cube stuff, who doesn't know cube stuff, who probably has never picked up a cube? How hard is it going to be for them to learn how to do some of this stuff?
So, like with the Rubik's Cube in general.
Just tell everybody.
So with the Rubik's Cube in general, it takes some practice to learn how to solve it. So I would say if you're actually really dedicated, like anything with magic, if you want to learn card manipulation, you're not going to have it in one day. With just solving a cube, I would say 1 to 3 days of a couple hours of practice each day, you could learn it. And then as far as learning the tricks, once you learn how to solve it, learning the tricks, you could learn in a day or two. Obviously, to make it smooth, this is going to take lots of practice, sure. But it's nothing that's beyond the difficulty of anyone who, if you could do double, if you could do some of this stuff as well.
Yeah, and I would agree, because I was actually really surprised how simple, once knowing the rhythm of how to solve a cube. Like, I was surprised that how easy it is. Now, there's different levels of solving a cube. The basic solve is fairly simple, but I mean, I've seen you solve cubes like blindfolded and like all that stuff, and that's more difficult, obviously.
Yeah, that's more advanced stuff. The stuff that I do teach in the DVD, most of it is, some of it is simple, some of it is harder. Like a lot of the one-handed stuff is going to take a little more practice. Sure. But like the basic original, I'll show it real quick. But just the one where you show it like that, and then there's the standard toss-up. That's relatively easy. Sure. With a day or two of practice, you could do it relatively smoothly. So.
Sure. And now talk about some of the routines that are taught, because I know there's a good amount of stuff taught on the project. So give us some kind of a rundown of the different routines and what they just show. Yeah,
so I kind of view it as like almost like a toolbox of all different types of moves. So as far as we do the toss-up, we have behind the back. So you could kind of, it's all where you could put it in any order you want. So let's say you're doing the Rubik's Cube magic, and then a server comes to your table. You could stop right there after one instant toss. You don't have to continue. Sure. So it's basically like you can morph it the routine how you want it, talk about what you want, whether it's your speed solver, or I just pick this up and I could solve it now, or you could say instead of solving it normally, I toss it up and I catch it solved. So there's lots of different ways you can present it, and it always gets a good reaction too.
Now, one of my favorite routines you teach is and I don't think have you done it on TV? I don't think people have really seen it. The bag. Well, you did it on Full S too, right? The bag with the vanishing of the cube.
Yeah, so you solve it coming out of a bag. Yep.
Right. And
there's.
Sorry. So I think the main question a lot of people are going to want to know is what you did on Full S. Which, first of all, like I've already said it once, but congratulations, because you full pin and tiller super hard. And is that routine taught on Cube3?
Yes. So there's a couple. The last two parts of Full S are not taught. So I have an instant drop in the matching teller's cube. The method that I use to match is actually almost too hard to teach. I mean, maybe down the road I could figure out a way to teach it, but right now it's not, possible. As far as everything else at the beginning, so every trick you saw from the start all the way to the last two is taught. So I do the imagination solve, the toss it behind the back paper bag, so it covers, a lot of stuff covered in it. So
great. And I mean, lastly, what do you suggest people, like, why would someone want to learn solving Rubik's cubes? Because I think this shows so much more than magic. It's skill, it's magic, and I mean, I know from just watching you and your social media, like you've now are making money off of this skill because of like back of room stuff and like just you're expanding it. So why should someone really kind of take time out to learn this?
Well, it's not a card trick.
Sure.
And it definitely separates. There's not many people doing good Rubik's Cube magic. Obviously, the standard was a Daryl toss-up, the cube,
I think. Right?
Enchanted cube, yep. And that was the standard for years, and it was good for what it is. But now I think Rubik's Cube magic has kind of evolved. So if you want to even stay in the loop and keep up with what people are doing, you have to pick this up. There's also a couple of other good products out there. You just have to, keep up with the times, basically.
Sure. And also, what I think that works really well, the reason why I think the cube works so well is that everyone, no matter how old or how young, can relate to the cube.
Yeah, well, it's not some like weird magic box. Like you bring out some weird object, like, oh, it's a Rubik's cube. They're like, even if it's like the newer speed solving ones, they see it and it's like, oh, I know what that is, and they instantly recognize it. They all have a story. They can all connect with it. If you walk up with a deck of cards, some people play poker, some people don't. But if you walk up to a Rubik's cube at any place in the world, they will say, oh, I know what that is.
Sure.
They instantly relate to it.
And they all know how difficult it is.
Yes.
To solve a cube. So the fact, even if you didn't do any of the routines you taught,
you just solve it in 30 seconds. It's worth it because there's presentation behind it. At first, actually, I never would solve it in my shows. I would have it in my case. People would say, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh no, it's just a cube. I solve it in like 20 seconds." And they would want to see it, but I would never show it to them. Finally, just adding a regular solve into my show, and then I just started developing it from there. But it's made like a huge difference from the beginning. So, and it's skill, it's credibility. The moment you solve a cube in front of them, they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's not some weirdo magic guy walking up to us,
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the product itself is really great. The packaging's great. I mean, they did a really good job, and the cube that you get is this is a cube that you use. This isn't just like a cheap cube.
That is the same exact cube I use. So if you go on YouTube and watch my busking shows, every corporate, every stand-up show, I use that same exact cube.
Right. And it's really smooth. It's considered a speed cube. Right, which is really nice. And the instructions come on this really awesome USB.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
Which is really sweet. It's a really great package, great effect, great. The routines, everything about it's great. You guys did a really good job. So, Steven, thank you so much. Last question. So,
yes.
Just in case people have been following because you've had a really good year. I guess a year and a half, 2 years now. Like you've had a really.
Well, it started December, so it's still only been like less than 9 months now.
So you've had a really good 9 months. So
yeah.
So what's going on after this? Like, what's the next thing? Like, what are people should be watching for?
As far as cube stuff, or in general, about me, or what?
Career, yeah, you and everything that's.
Oh, so I have some nice TV stuff lined up in Canada. I'm doing the largest national Canada morning show.
Great.
Actually, this Tuesday. So, and then a bunch of other TV stuff that's going to be. We filmed for it months ago, but now I'm just waiting for it to come out. And then now it's just staying busy doing college shows, corporate shows. And I do the cube in every single one of my shows. So.
I know. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us and answering some of these questions, because Cube3 pre-sale starts tomorrow, and I know everybody's gonna love it. It's a really solid product. There's no flaws in it, and it's really good. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon.